something going on in their life. Maybe I'm helping them with, evaluation and treatment of like anxiety and depression. And that's something we're talking about. And I feel a sense that maybe I should offer to them that I could pray with them if they would want that. And so sometimes if there's circumstantial reasons, I might offer a prayer. Difficult. In my prayers, I try to include some things. One thing I commonly include is like asking God for help for us to acknowledge that He's with us at all times. Hey guys, today I'm going to post a video about what it looks like to pray with patients. And this is something that I try to kind of get a gauge on at that first visit, like I talked about in one of my last videos, where I open the door with the patients kind of to spiritual conversations and ask about their spiritual beliefs at the first time I meet them. And so this kind of, I can maybe have an idea based on my last visit what their beliefs are, if they would be open to something like this. Sometimes at that first visit, patients will actually say, oh, I would love that. And then I kind of get the sense that they mean like they want me to pray for them today. And so I will either, if we're like closing up the visit, I might say, oh, are you okay if I pray with you right now then? And then they'll say, oh yeah, that would be awesome. So that's happened a few times the first time I meet patients. And then also there's maybe, consecutive visits where they are having something going on in their life. Maybe I'm helping them with, evaluation and treatment of like anxiety and depression. And that's something we're talking about. And I feel a sense that maybe I should offer to them that I could pray with them if they would want that. And so sometimes if there's circumstantial reasons, I might offer a prayer during a difficult time with somebody. And then there's also patients that every time I meet with them, they're expecting that we're going to pray, which is great. And sometimes like I mentioned, maybe if you remember my last video, if you watched it, there's actually some patients that will kind of prompt me and remind me if I'm having like a busy day and I forget to kind of offer prayer during the visit. They'll be like, what, like, are you gonna pray with me? And so that's something that I appreciate, and it's kind of cool that patients would even do that, like, expecting it that I'm going to pray with them. So that's really cool. And so there's certain, I guess, kind of times where I maybe will pray with a patient in the circumstances like I mentioned earlier, like maybe dealing with anxiety and depression, and I pray specifically about what's going on in their lives at that time that's difficult. In my prayers, I try to include some things. One thing I commonly include is like asking God for help for us to acknowledge that He's with us at all times. And sometimes that is hard to remember, especially if we don't feel close to Him. He is always with us. He's there, and we sometimes don't feel that, if we don't feel His presence. But kind of helping remind us that He's there with us at all times to communicate with. And also I ask Him to help us to see the plans that He has given us in our lives that He wants us to do. So I ask that He helps myself and the patient to see the plans that He's laid out for them. And I try to also include in the prayers with patients that God would guide me in their healthcare, that He would be helping me to recall the information that applies to their health status. And this is something I do with the patient sometimes, and then it's also something that I do outside of times with patients. If I pray on my own, sometimes I ask God, Lord, help me to recall the information that I've studied, that if I forget something, that You would help me find the answers, that You would help me get to the right resources, that You would help me to recall the information that I've studied and related to this topic. And I try to include God outside of the patient visits and ask for His help in those things, which also helps with like some anxieties about feeling like I don't know, I'm supposed to know this and I don't know this. Well, I ask for God's help, and sometimes I don't remember things, so I have to find the resources to find the answer to help the patient there. And so, I appreciate the times and the opportunities that I've had to pray with patients. And initially this felt a little weird. So if you're scared of, the idea of praying with the patient, I would encourage you to, just take a first step. When when we grow with God, he asks us to do things that we're scared to do. And so one of the things that for me, I didn't used to like praying with people. I felt uncomfortable and kind of weird, but over the years of following God, it's become something that's a lot more easy. And I've watched him help me do it for a long time now. So it's more easy for me to do this. And that just took me taking those scary steps of starting it. And it doesn't have to be like you have to say all these fancy, perfect words. Our God is one who wants to have a relationship with us where we can have a conversation with him and talk to him the way that I'm talking to you. You don't have to use fancy, churchy words. God just wants to know you. He's like us. We're created in his image. He wants us to communicate with him just like we communicate with other people that we're in relationship with. Now, we should respect him, as the creator God, and have that in mind that we're talking to the creator of the universe. But you don't have to use fancy words, So hopefully that eases maybe some anxieties if you're scared to pray with patients. And so hopefully that gives some practical thoughts about praying with patients if you're a healthcare provider, or if you're like a patient and you're curious what healthcare providers might think about praying with you. At least I can give you my example of what that looks like for me and things that have been helpful for me. So thanks for checking out this video, and I'm going to be continuing to put out more videos, and we'll cover different topics similar to these ones. Thanks.